Hi everybody, Martinez. This is my second video of the day. I don't know if you watched the first one, but this is the more business-oriented video. This is my conversation about Monster, my sixth book. I figure I'll go backwards, eventually get to my first book. But since this is the stuff that came out more recently, I'd like to go ahead and talk about it. Monster is my first book for Orbit. Before that, I was a Tor. Tor was good. I don't want to say anything bad about Tor. But Orbit has done a great job for me and really pushed me out there, and I want to give them full credit for really helping get me to another level, and who knows where it's going from there. But anyway, Monster is my book about Monster, who's a guy who hunts monsters, which kind of repetitive. He's like basically a dog catcher in the modern world. It's a urban fantasy story, but with magic running around, and most of us can't perceive magic, or if we perceive it, we forget it almost immediately, and we can't really control that. But there's some people like Monster who can perceive magic and can understand it in a part of the world. What I wanted to do with this book was a couple of things. One was I wanted to write a story where you had an unlikable person who's just unhappy, and is unhappy through the whole book, and stays unhappy at the end, because I don't know, it's just sort of a thing I wanted to do of like no character growth. I don't know why. I usually hate that, but I did it, and I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. I also wanted to kind of subvert that whole people falling in love, designated protagonist, designated love story. So in this story we meet Judy and Monster, who really don't like each other because they're both kind of in a bad place in their life, and they're just not pleasant around each other. Judy's got a better excuse than Monster, but it doesn't matter. And they don't like, and they fight, and they don't get along, and the most they tolerate each other, and that's not something they overcome. At the end of the book, they still just tolerate each other. They're not in love. I know we've been conditioned to believe that about, like, to see it. Well, if you see two people that are leads of the story, they're going to fall in love. Or if they're fighting, it must be because they love each other, which I've always felt was nonsense. I mean, there are people who have strong personalities that butt up against each other, but most time when people fight, it's because they don't like each other. Much less love each other. I've always felt oh, dang it, sorry about that. I've always felt like it's a weird thing to me, because even like with Harry Potter, I've always felt like, I understand that people thought like Hermione and I never say her name right, and Ron should be together because they fight and they like each other, but if you look at their personalities, they have almost nothing in common. I mean, she's a go-getter, she's driven, she's reckless and brave, and he's just like a regular guy, and he's not very, I don't know, I don't want to say anything bad about him, but he's not really that exciting. I think they'd hate each other. I think they fight because they don't get along, not because there's romantic tension. And I think if you fast forward a couple of years in the future of the Harry Potter universe, of the future of the Harry Potter universe, there's a messy divorce coming up. And I hope I didn't ruin anything for anybody, but the book's been out for a while, so read it. Okay, but back to me, because that's what's important. Monster is also an urban fantasy story, like, I guess in the sense that it's contemporary and set in a city. And one of the things I wanted to do in this story too was kind of explore magic, not as a side thing, because a lot of urban fantasy always bugs me because it's like there's a slash. There's the real world, and then there's the magic world, and they kind of meet but not really. Like the wizards usually don't use technology, and the people who use technology don't understand magic. And I felt like that was something that always seemed artificial to me. It's like, join them, see what you can do. So like in Monster, the people use magic. First of all, magic's like a skill. It's not an art. It's something you can learn. Unfortunately, it's really hard to remember. So like Monster uses runes. That's his thing. But like he carries around a pocket dictionary. It's like this big that has runes in it that lets him remember what to do. He uses magic markers. He uses post-it notes, and I really love that about that. When I figured that out, I was so happy with the story. He has potions, but he doesn't make his own potions. We don't make our own potions. He literally has potions in the back of his truck in squeeze bottles that he's bought, because if somebody can make potions and distribute them, they're going to. And stuff like that. And I really felt like even his job is basically like a dog catcher. It's like he's got to go and capture these creatures that are out of control. And It's basically a job, and that's the other thing too. It's like he's not really a wizard. He does some magic, but almost anybody who can do what he does magic. It's more like he's a working class guy. He doesn't live in a castle. He drives around. He's got a job. He's got a girlfriend. He just does regular stuff, and there's not really much glamour in what he does. And I kind of want to do that too, because I always felt like, I understand what people are going for with the cool wizard who's fighting to save the universe, but I kind of want to do something with like a regular guy. So anyway, I guess I'll go ahead and read some of the first chapter, which I did last time and people seem to like, and that way hopefully it'll sell you on it. So, without further ado, we begin with Monster, Chapter 1, Page 1. The thing was big and white and hairy, and it was eating all the ice cream in the walk-in freezer. 4 dozen chewed up empty cartons testified that it had already devoured half of the inventory and wasn't full yet. From the safety of the doorway, Judy watched it stuff an entire carton of Choco Chip-tastic fudge into its mouth with a slurp. The creature turned its head slowly and sniffed. It had vaguely human features, except its face was blue and its nostrils and mouth impossibly huge. It fixed a cobalt eye on her and snorted. Judy beat a hasty retreat and walked to the produce aisle, where Dave was stocking the lettuce. "I thought I asked you to stock the ice cream," he said. "No need," she said. "Yeti is eating it all." He raised his head. "What?" "Maybe not all of it," she said. "Doesn't seem to like the vanilla." "What?" Dave wasn't the brightest of guys, and the staffing shortage of the Food Plus Mart and the extra hours he'd been putting in had taken their toll. The poor guy got maybe 3 hours of sleep at night, $9 an hour, and 2 days of paid vacation a year. But it was all worth it to work in the glamorous world of supermarket management, she assumed. "It's a Yeti," she said. "Big hairy thing. Belongs in the Himalayas, except it's in your freezer, and it's eating the ice cream." "What?" She sighed. "Just go look for yourself, Dave. I'll handle the lettuce." Dave trudged toward the freezer and returned. "There's a Yeti in the freezer," he observed. "Mm-hmm." Dave joined her in piling on lettuce. They moved on to bananas, then grapes. He checked the freezer again. "Is it still there?" she asked. "Yeah, now it's eating the frozen chicken dinners." He rubbed his fat chin. "What should we do?" "Don't ask me," she said. "You're the manager." Dave scratched his head. He was obviously having trouble forming a coherent thought. Judy took pity on him. "Is there a book of emergency phone numbers, Dave?" "Yeah," he yawned. "But I don't think it has anything to do with anything about Yetis in it." "Have you checked?" "No." "It's in the office, right?" she asked. He nodded. "Oh, Christ, Dave. Just give me the keys to the office already." On the way to the office, she passed the freezer. The Yeti was making a mess, and she'd probably be the one who'd have to clean it up. She didn't mind. She needed the overtime. The emergency phone number book was a spiral notebook with a picture of a happy snowman on its cover. She sat in the creaky chair, propped her feet on the desk, and thumbed through the book. It wasn't arranged in any particular order, but she wasn't in a hurry. 15 minutes later, she decided on the only possible appropriate number, picked up the phone and dialed. The animal control line was automated. A pre-recorded voice informed her of the hours of normal operation, and she was unsurprised to discover that 3 in the morning wasn't among them. She almost hung up, but it was a choice between listening to a recording or starting on the canned goods aisle, so it really wasn't much of a choice at all. After 2 minutes of interminable droning that Judy only half listened to, the voice instructed, "If this is an emergency, please press 1 now." She did. The phone started ringing. She counted 25 before she distracted herself with an impromptu drum solo using the desktop, a pen, and a pencil. She was just settling into her beat when someone answered the other line. "Animal Control Services, please state the nature of your emergency." "Yeah, I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but we've got, like a Yeti or something, I guess, in our store." She winced. She should have just said they had a big rabid dog. They might have believed her then. "I know how that sounds, but this is not a prank, I swear." "Please hold." Judy waited for the click and dial tone to replace the steady buzz in the earpiece. It didn't come. The clock on the wall ticked off the seconds. Maybe they were tracing the call right now and dispatching a squad car to arrest her, or at the very least give her a stern talking to. Well, let them. When the cops got here, she'd just show them the Yeti and it would become their problem. "Cryptobiological Containment and Rescue Services, can I have your name, please?" The woman sounded supremely disinterested. Judy hesitated, but she figured it didn't make much difference at this point. "Judy Hines." "And you believe you have a Yeti in your freezer, is that correct?" The words were beginning to lose their absurdity. "Yeah, I think so," she said, though she wasn't as certain as she had been 5 minutes before. "Can you describe it?" It's big and white and eating all the ice cream, she said. What flavor? What? What flavor does it seem to prefer? Yetis generally go for Rocky Road. Now Wendigos, on the other hand, prefer strawberry in my experience. What's a Wendigo? Judy asked. Like a Yeti, except meaner. Judy considered that this woman might be screwing with her. If Judy were working a lonely job in the middle of the night and got a crank call, she'd probably do the same. It didn't seem to like vanilla. There was an awkward pause. I am not making this up. Excuse me. Just stay out of its way. We've dispatched an agent. He should be there in 15 minutes. I didn't tell you the address. We traced the emergency calls. The operator hung up. Satisfied she'd done her job, she went to the front of the store. She shouted, "They're sending a guy, so I'll go wait for him and take a smoke break while I'm at it, Dave." There was no indication he'd heard her, but he'd figure it out. The night was cool, and she wished she'd thought to grab her sweater. It wasn't cold enough to bother going back. She sat on the coin-operated rocket, lit a cig, and waited. She wondered about the Yeti. It didn't make much sense for a mythical monster from the Himalayas to be in the Food Plus Mart freezer. She hoped the guy the city sent would know how to handle the situation. She doubted that pole with the loop of rope would be up to the task. A white van pulled into the parking lot. The plain black stenciled letters on its side read, "Monsters Cryptobiological Rescue." The vehicle rolled lazily into a parking spot in the middle of the lot. Though there was plenty of closer spaces available, a man in cargo pants and a t-shirt stepped out of it. The dim lot lighting kept him in an indistinct blur as, whistling the theme to Star Trek, he went to the back of his van and retrieved something. He didn't look like much, and as he walked closer he looked like even less. He was tall and lanky, with a narrow face. His hair and skin were blue. The hair was a tangled mess and could have passed reasonably for seaweed. He carried a baseball bat over his shoulder. She didn't comment on its blueness. Like the inexplicable appearance of the Yeti, it didn't seem odd, like encountering an elephant at the beach or meeting an aborigine at the mall. She wouldn't expect it, but she wouldn't classify it as bizarre as much as unexpected. Her lack of a strong reaction struck her as stranger than anything else, but Judy made an art out of indifference, so she chalked it up to not caring. "Are you the guy?" she asked. "The guy the city sent?" "I'm the guy. Are you the one who called?" She nodded. "Let's have a look then." There you go. That blue guy was Monster. He doesn't show up. Judy is the other main character, and she's an important character. She's I don't want to give too much away, but she's kind of the center of the plot, and Monster's kind of the guy who gets dragged along in her wake. I guess that's it. I don't know what else to say about it besides I think it's a really good book, and I really enjoyed writing it, and I hope you enjoy it. There's a lot of great characters. I tried to put a lot of interesting monsters in it, not just the typical ones. I have in addition to the Yeti, there's a lot of, I have the Garborshand, which is a Scottish goat man monster. I have a whole bunch of them, and I enjoy that. I have I always forget the name because it's a Inuit walrus dog monster, which is really cool, and I really enjoyed that. And there's just a lot of craziness goes on, and it's also sort of a study in how to make yourself happy, and how we make ourselves unhappy. So I don't know what to say. I mean, other than that, I hope it doesn't sound pretentious when I say stuff like that. I think it's got quite a bit of interesting story going on, because I get diminished a lot as a comic writer, and I don't mind that. But sometimes I feel like I shouldn't have to point out what I'm trying to do, but it doesn't hurt. And if you disagree with me, that's cool. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll figure out my next video. And hopefully on my next video will be Too Many Curses, which was my 5th book and my last one with Tor, and full of monsters and a great story. Thank you for watching.